You are listening to Know It, Live It. I'm your host, Lori Hanson-Brexa. Each week, I have an insightful conversation with a fascinating person who shares their life mission, determination, passion, principle, or spiritual journey. Today, I have Madeline Hatch of Hatch Services with me. I have known Madeline for years. She's the same age as one of my daughters. I was impressed with her when I first met her, standing at my door. And I'm still impressed. I've been following her on social media as she has developed this wonderful business. I'm so impressed with her. I'm going to let her tell you all about it, but I want you to really notice her voice. Because of what she does, she could be bombastic and loud and kind of in your face, but she's not. She's calm and reserved, and it makes you kind of feel safe. So let's get talking to Madeline Hatch. Thank you for joining me.
It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I think you're fantastic in what you do. I've actually been following you on social media because I have a great interest in you, having my daughter. And I just admire you for many things. It says in your bio is that you believe people succeed when they feel seen, heard, and guided. What does that mean to feel seen, heard, and guided?
Yeah, I have kind of taken it from the lens of when we're, if I find someone not really in the best state of mind, which can be caused by letting go of our good habits or just not having them put in place in the beginning. It kind of deteriorates our mindset too, and just the way that we're able to kind of carry ourselves. And we know that it's happening to some extent, and yet sometimes we're either not able to pull ourselves out of it. And so having someone to kind of be aware and conscious enough to see that in them and to call it out and to not make them feel bad for it, of course, but to just say, like, are you okay? Is there something going on? And what's going on? And just to be obviously kind about it, and sometimes just pinpointing the symptoms or the behavior that you see, and maybe their vibe, even like of what they're exuding, and just in an interaction like that can help someone feel very seen and heard and encouraged and empowered to say, hey, you know what, I am going through a lot right now. And just to kind of switch the self-talk from like, oh, this is hard, and oh, this is not going well, and to then start turning the negative flywheel into the positive flywheel. And just because we were seen and heard, and the shame of whatever we're experiencing kind of just disappears. So yeah.
So you show people their blind spots?
Yeah, it could either be the blind spots, or just like, for instance, I coach a client right now who has a lot on his plate. He's a married dad with a couple kids, and when life just your plate is full, you've got a lot going on, and you kind of just don't feel like yourself when the day just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. You don't really get much downtime. You don't get very much time to just relax, reset, get back out there, feeling strong. It takes a little bit of time to just reboot, or just someone to acknowledge, like, hey, you're kind of going through a lot, and I see that. And before you burn out, let's take a minute to kind of just rewind, acknowledge where you're at right now, try to see, like, hey, it wasn't just a completely awful week that you had. Like, there were some wins in there too. And so just to kind of reframe their mindset and the way that they see things helps to kind of like give them back their power. Yeah.
Oh, I really like that. You're seeing the whole human.
Yeah.
You're seeing them in context.
Yeah.
I got that. So what are some of the things you mentioned, some of the things that you say to them, because you're not just saying, oh, tell me things. You're not being a therapist. You're just looking at them and their whole life.
Yeah.
That's what you mean by seen, heard. You're looking at them and their whole person. Why are they not working out? Not just, hey, you lazy bum.
Yeah.
You're saying, okay, there's reasons why they're not working out. They have stress on they have all this going on. So when you start working out, when you start making a plan for them, you're taking this into account. So if they don't have 2-hour blocks to be at the gym, are you breaking it down into smaller units they can do in the day? Or how do you handle that when you work with a man who is busy providing for his family and wants to be with his family and doesn't have a block of time? How do you work that out with him?
Yeah, that's definitely true. Like it's really not just about forcing them to just move and just do it anyways. It is about just meeting them where they're at mentally and where they're at in their life. And it's an interesting balance because, or it's a fine line, right? Because in order to meet that goal in the future of getting in better shape or feeling better or just being a better parent figure for your kids and whatnot, what stage of life that you're in, there is still a teensy bit of that sacrifice. So I know that, this client in particular, he would probably prefer to work out in the afternoons, but there is a lot more family stuff that goes on in the afternoons. As he's had to make is to say, okay, fine, I will go to the gym in the mornings, go to the gym before work, go to work after, then come home and have his, family time at that time. And so for him, that is what has made sense. I think for other clients that I've had, it does look a little bit more like separate, that hour block to, just go for a walk in the mornings. I have a client who has two girls, and so she can fit in, a 30-minute muscle building workout that I, have set, and then she can go for a walk with the girls in the morning, and then she can go after work with her girls again. So it's really just all about integrating where you're at and still making it work and not separating, fitness is not separate from the rest of your life. And I think that's what a lot of people have it confused as, right? They think of it as its own aspect in life. It's when you think about it in the primal sense, like exercise just was a part of our life, For a long, long time, it's really just been in like the last decade or two where cars have come into play, sedentary work environments come into play. And so then it's been separated. Like we drive to a class to do a yoga class. We drive to a park to go to a park. There's less and less integration of like, the park is 2 blocks away. Why don't we just walk there? Or, like the yoga studio, yeah, maybe it is far, and so you do drive there, or if you do a yoga session at home, or I don't know, there's just still ways to integrate it into your life just so it's not completely separate from what you do, and so it doesn't actually take that much more time. You can still integrate your family, your work, you time just to like feel like your normal self again. So yeah.
So some creative problem solving and scheduling.
Yeah.
Is what you help them. So that's part of how you see and hear them.
Yeah.
And understand what they're going through. And then you guide them.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at them their whole lives and trying to find ways for them to exercise. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Especially if you work with women with young children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
sometimes
100%.
I knew when I had little children, you had to find a way to run with them when they ran around at the park. Or you weren't going to get exercise. Because you're kind of on call. You can set a schedule. Oh, I'm going to work out, but then a kid gets sick or an unexpected event comes up and you can get really frustrated that you don't have that time, and that's not healthy. But if you work in your activity with their activity, you're pretty busy. If you follow their schedule, follow their energy, you're working out.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think I understand what you're saying. Am I getting what you're saying?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But it would have been very helpful to have someone look at that with me as I got older and the kids got older, because then you don't have any kids helping you run around. So you kind of sit down more.
Yeah,
It
definitely.
settles just where you sit down, right above where you're sitting. The gravity just kind of pulls it down and it just kind of pulls.
Hugs you.
So not that I'm putting myself down, it's positive body imagery. Now, I want to know how you came to this career, because you graduated, I believe, in international business. Now, how are you doing this? Because this is an international business. Tell me that switch. Tell me how you got into this.
Yeah, so I kind of have always been into exercise and nutrition. I remember, and this is kind of like a recurring theme that I have of like perseverance through the hard times in life and just not being a victim to your situation. So I think some people know that I had a house fire when I was about 10 or so. So I lived in Huntington Beach, and we had a garage, a spark in the garage, and it just burned everything in there. And so the whole house was full of smoke, and we all made it out alive at least. But, we lost our house and it was really hard to recover from that. And so that started our journey of of moving up the coast, so to speak. So we moved to my grandparents' house and we stayed there for a couple years and just really trying to recover from that. And I remember it was kind of like a balance of I just wanted to have my dream body, even though I was 10. What am I even talking about at that time? I shouldn't really have to worry about that at that time. But I just kind of also learned the lesson of well, there's something about using the framework of fitness as a way to cope with things that you're going through, and to use it as an outlet. So I know that there's a little bit of two different themes of I drew out I want this as my dream body, when I get older or whatnot. This is what I want to work towards. But there was also just the mindset aspect of well, I'm also kind of doing this so that I don't pity my situation, I just want to come out on top, basically. And so that early memory has just kind of followed me throughout different situations. So here I find myself, flash forward into high school, and, not necessarily as hard of an experience, but I spend, the last 3 years of high school doing cardio heavy sports, and just kind of completely forgetting about the fact that muscle, or I just didn't really even know, honestly, just didn't really know that, but, muscle is kind of the longevity of life, is what we're all kind of coming to figure out. And so here, me being the cardio bunny that I was, I got out of high school and just still, kind of thought what the heck am I doing with my life? First of all, I just graduated. I don't know what I'm doing necessarily. And I know I loved self-care, journaling, art. I know I loved all these things because it made me feel so good. So taking care of myself in this way. And then I just kind of found that keeping up with the running and then signing up for a gym and things like that was just an additional way to take care of myself. And so that kind of carried me on for a couple years. That's when I was introduced to bodybuilding. And so in 2018, I did my 2 first shows all on my own. Not that I really transformed and looked the way that, you would want to when you get onto stage, but, we all start somewhere, and that's kind of just how a lot of us find ourselves in the first few shows. But so yeah, I just have this theme of self-care, self-confidence, self-esteem, just always trying to work on myself. And all the while, academically, I'm going through DVC, so Diablo Valley College, and I take a while, but I eventually get my psychology degree, and it's pretty much the only one that I really felt interested and inclined to learn more about. Um, and then Cal Maritime kind of comes around. And so since I get my transfer degree, I know I'm going into a 4-year. I just don't know, where am I going to go now? I don't have no idea. So I applied to different places. And honestly, Cal Maritime was the only one that said, come on in, we're happy to have you here. So I guess just for more context on this school, it's an academy. And so we get students from all over the US who want to get into anything related to being a naval SEAL, getting into, there's one that goes on the water. There's just a bunch of water related careers you could get into. You can be in logistics and whatnot. And so the program that they set up was business administration, and then in fine line, small words, with a focus in international business logistics. And so I accepted it because they found that the psychology that I got fits pretty well into the business administration. And I thought, okay, well, I will use this to my advantage. I kind of thought I'd get into more of psychology-based stuff, and that's what I applied to different places. But I figured since they were the only ones that really were open arms for me, then I thought, okay, I think that there's something bigger than me that's going on right now, and so I'll try it out. And I loved it. I honestly thought it was great. I know other people were kind of annoyed and didn't care and didn't want to, participate in the uniforms, and complained about different things, but I was just this is a completely new experience for me. I'm seeing this as an opportunity, and mind you, this is right before COVID. And so I graduate DVC as we're entering into COVID. And so I spend the first year at Cal Maritime during COVID. And so it was honestly just another theme of perseverance. Here is this awful thing that's going on out in the world, but what am I doing? I've committed to buckling down and getting this degree. And then that was also the year where I started my third competition, and I committed to actually getting a coach this time. And that was huge for me because the first two shows, not making any progress in terms of like my like body fat actually coming down to be stage lean, to this time around like dropped a significant amount of weight so that I could actually see muscle underneath my body was just mind blowing. Just a massive experience, a massive transformation, and I learned so much about myself and worked on myself academically because I was still going through school too. It just was an interesting thing that like I make this joke kind of lightly because I know that a lot of people didn't what I experienced, but I like to think that like I spent that time and I dropped 20 pounds. A lot of people, found themselves in COVID in that era and gained about 20 pounds. It kind of just shows that when you are struggling through something, how do you react in that time, right? And so I chose to spend that time to make myself better and to propel my success. And so when I got done with COVID, I had a degree and I just felt amazing in my body and mind and soul. I just worked through that. And so I kind of feel like when other people are able to, see like, shoot, we're kind of a crisis here, or we're kind of going through some stuff
Hmm.
here.
Hmm.
How can we just come from a place of self-regulation and take care of yourself and know that there's a lot of things out of our control, and how can we still rise above it and have perseverance and still, acknowledge like, yeah, we're going through a lot, but we're gonna be okay, you know? And so in a lot of big ways and little ways. I know with everybody going through different experiences, it shows up, or what we have on our plate and have to get through shows is different, right? And so we just have to meet people where they're at and help them through that. So yeah.
So, in your story, you were motivated by extreme circumstances, a house fire, certainly, and that sets you on a trajectory. It sounds like to me you set a goal and that trajectory, and you have the grit, as Angela Duckworth would say, you have grit. And you're just a fantastic person, which is part of that. When people hire a coach, is that the level of motivation or desperation? I mean, at what point do your clients turn into focused and do it? Is that part of your job, or are they already gung-ho when they hire you?
It's a little bit of both. I've definitely had um both and everything in between. I guess at first, yeah, like I would think like, oh yeah, I just want everyone to just be ready to go, just to see what I'm doing, what I'm posting about, all that, and just get super gung ho and ready to go. And I do get some people who come in with that and they just know that, oh, just some accountability would really help me to excel and get through these plateaus. But then there are some that have been like, I am really struggling right now. I'm really low. My mindset's really heavy. I'm going through a lot. And I think that this will just kind of be my saving grace and this will help a ton. And so definitely I've had both ends of the extreme.
So is there an intake process? Do you sit and talk to people and say, okay, you got some kind of, what's the intake process for somebody who comes and is a client of yours?
Yeah, let's see. I guess there's a couple different ways that people have come into, but mostly we'll just hop on a call. I'll say like, "Are you available sometime? I feel like we could probably talk this out and see how this could help you." Because I don't ever want to assume, because I feel like that's disempowering, right? And then I kind of just want to make it a normal thing to hop on the phone more often with people and just say like, how are you doing? Like how are things going? And then just kind of offer it as an idea based on like maybe you express some things that you've seen, and that's how you start to integrate the seen and heard aspect of it. And if they are like, yeah, that actually sounds like really helpful, that would really make a big difference, then we'll kind of just go from there. I just say, okay, well, let's make a plan. Let's meet at, what times during the week. So we'll kind of set a schedule because I like to have one-on-one weekly calls to kind of check in with people. And then, but behind the scenes, I'll make a training plan. I'll make some journal prompts based on where they're at and where they want to be and how to get them there journey-wise. Some nutrition guidance plan too. The funny thing about having a plan set out for them is that it changes and it really evolves. And half the time I realize that like making a perfect like checklist of like, did you do this today? And did you do this today? And I find that most of the time people can't really follow along with that. And sometimes that like for mentors who I've had, they very much want me to integrate that, but so far when I have tried to integrate it, it dies off really fast because it becomes about the person trying to meet my expectation. That's not really that's becoming not my philosophy because it doesn't do
Point,
anything for them,
it's
right?
point for
Like it's
failure for them. That's what it is.
exactly. And so I don't really even make too much of a plan um, for them to follow. Like maybe I'll set up here's a workout plan that's going to actually just meet you at where you're at. It's way more empowering than like, okay, well, this is what your body needs to go through, separates it again. And we're not trying to separate the act of movement, we're trying to integrate it. And so, for instance, I have a new client joining and her back hurts. She's very, very busy and she has a workout set up at home, a workout gym area at home. And so when she's working from home, then she can set out some time to do some movement. It's not about just, okay, well, in those moments where you can get something in, do some burpees and like, pump out some iron or whatever. It's really just about, okay, so she's expressed her hips hurt from sitting so much. She's expressed that her back hurts and that, from a PT, she has, weak glutes from all the sitting that she does. And so what would actually be really great and most effective is to take those blocks of 15 to 20 minutes that she does have to really just go into that gym room, stretch out your hips, work with some bands. It's just about make it easy and make it effective, make it actually
Doable.
doable.
Yeah, achievable. There's nothing like failing the first 3 times you do something because you're just gonna give up. Doing
Exactly.
something for 7 days and not having ability to fail 2 of those days and still be successful is horrible for a person. Used to help
Yeah.
goal setting, working with teenage young women for an
Mm.
accomplishment program. There were some things that I have to do for a week, and so I'd make them goal sheets. And there was always a grace. So there'd be 9 days, so they could miss 2, and it would be all right. Because a week, you have to build in for failure and still succeed, or you're going to give up. Everybody's like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I understand what you mean by rigidity because you're not a drill sergeant. You're a
You're
coach.
right.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
different. So now what I find admirable is you began this company, Hatch Services, which is something you built from scratch. And I want you to tell me how you thought of this idea and really just did. I mean, how did you go from the idea and how did you go for it? Tell me about that process. Tell me your story of actually making something and not knowing. Tell me the story of knowing you wanted to do it and then actually living it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I think it's like one of those like is it the chicken or is it the egg that kind of started the whole thing? 'Cause I kind of feel like throughout my 20s I was living it first. And so it wasn't until soon after graduating Cal Maritime I had just known that like for a long time because I was still training myself, you know, kind of separating exercise and academics in life and whatnot, that I really more so wanted to integrate it and make it more of like just what I do and who I am. And so with learning, going through the academics, learning about business, learning about marketing and all the aspects of it, I was getting more and more exposed to how do you retain people? How do you hire employees? Like just these different things. And although it was a lot more logistics focused,
Mm-hmm.
I still kind of just took the bits and pieces that really resonated with me. And so, obviously I still showed up and still did the work that I had to do to prove that I could, earn this degree. But kind of something inwardly in me was brewing, like just this, like, well, how do I just apply this to where I am? Like what's on my heart? And I soon after that was working for, I accepted kind of a little bit out of desperation for, getting some immediate work after college but then also wanting to get more into the fitness side of things. I had no idea that just the town over there was a fitness studio that was looking for personal trainers. And I didn't know very much about being a 1099 contractor, but I accepted the position and just thought this will be a really great learning experience for me. And so in order to be a 1099 contractor, you make your own LLC. And so I I did that just so I could be hired, and little did I know that that was kind of exactly just the seed that I needed to set that up, get hired, gain like almost a year's worth of one-on-one experience with these different clients that were basically just handed to me by the boss. Here's these people, I would like for you to train them well. And so, we'd have weekly trainings so that we're, retaining and just like almost all of these business marketing and
Hmm.
sales and how do you integrate this all into what you do? And that really, really got me thinking, wow, I could really do this on my own because I've had, 10 plus years of my own journey. And then I was able to flip the script and I was the person
Hmm.
helping them go through their own journey.
Hmm.
And that was like huge for me. That was like so powerful. Like I could totally just go now and take my LLC if I wanted to and start helping other people. And so I thought, okay, well, we're gonna start small. We're
Hmm.
not gonna conquer the world today, but how can I
Tomorrow.
just, yeah, how can I just start small and make a difference? And so I kind of jokingly said to myself, well, I've been in this town of Crockett for, I think at this point, 15 or 16 years, and I just kind of joked with myself. We all like to joke about Crockett being so quirky, but I just thought, like, I'm gonna make Crockett, my mission this year is to get Crockett into shape. And it's so big and, visionary.
Sorry for I'm not laughing at you.
Yeah.
I'm laughing at imagining these really buff residents of Crockett walking down the street. And that's what I was laughing at. Certainly not your college picture. You're going buff. Barely fitting in that little library they have. That's why I was laughing.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not at Madeline's school. She probably could do it. I have no
So far, I mean, yeah. Yeah, I mean the town of like people who would prefer to drink wine, and there's a bunch of antique stores, and there's everything but fitness in this town, I feel like. And so it was a pretty big endeavor to be like, you know what? I think for me I saw it as an opportunity. It's a perfectly untapped market in my mind. And so I think that's the big difference between other people who have an idea and go for it and people who have an idea and just say, I don't know if that's worth it or if that's going to work. And there certainly is a lot of ideas that we all have, and it pans out or it doesn't. I think the difference for me was that is the like deeper drive and desire to see and commitment to see like, can I make this happen? And if it flops, it flops, but at least I gave it a try. And so I started very small. I said, okay, just Crockett. We're just gonna work on these sweet people here in this town and just get them moving. Just get them, get them tapped back into their body and try. I came across a lot of people in this town are either working from home or retired or they do work in an office still. So once I kind of had an idea of like where is everyone in those three buckets, then I was able to just kind of support them in that way. And so my first action was I created a class every Thursday evening, about 6, I think it was, to come to the Crockett Community Center. Allowed me to use the Crockett Community Center for free because it was a recreation class, whereas other people, who have parties or events or whatnot, they have to pay for it. And so I thought that makes it so much easier because, the class was pretty small, but from just having that class consistently every Thursday evening, kind of opened their eyes. The people who were there, it opened their eyes to like, oh, like I am working really, really hard outside of this. And when I come here, I don't just beat up my body. We're stretching. We're just working on our balance. We're integrating some core exercises just so we're remembering to engage our core when we move. It's like all very foundational stuff. So I just came into it with the intention of like this is supposed to be rejuvenating. This is supposed to be a lot like when you try different, forms of exercise like yoga. People in this town love yoga. I kind of had to equate it to that. I had to say like, well, you go to yoga with the expectation of it being rejuvenating, but when you hear strength training or hear exercise, your mind immediately goes to something more rigorous. It goes to something more intense. And your mind goes to like, oh, this is going to hurt. This is going to make my aches and pains worse, etc., etc. Some people already have a good relationship with yoga or a good relationship with Pilates, a good relationship with HIIT workouts or running or whatever. Their thing is, why not change that relationship to this as well? So I think for some people this was eye-opening of like, oh wow, like exercise and trying to build muscle and trying to relieve aches and pains doesn't have to be painful. It actually feels really good. And so just from that class of being about, 5 or 6 months long, I decided to take it outside of that and to switch it up a little bit. So for various reasons, I just decided not to work with the community center and to just go on my own. So I said, okay, those of you who can do it in the mornings, I'm way more of a morning person, and I think a couple of you guys are too. And so I spent now like the last year every morning, 7 a.m., Monday through Friday, down at the community center or community pool off to the side, not in the pool, people get that confused, but off to the side there's a nice slab of cement, and there's a group of us that meet there almost every day to either work on our lower body or our upper body. So we're stretching, we're doing a balance exercise, then we get some and then we're doing foam rolling too. That's a big underrated tool. I think a lot of people could have. They have foam rollers, but they don't know what to do with it. So yeah, so there's a whole routine to it, and it kind of just is meant for making your body more functional. So yeah.
So your body's a tool as well.
Mm-hmm.
Underrated, and it's right there.
Yep.
It's already free. Because you already
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
biggest free resource you have. So
Exactly.
you had the talent or the skill already, the tools. You've been living them for some time. You kind of happenstance, blessing, what you might call it, luck. You got into a job that you found out you needed to start an LLC. And then you were bright enough to use it for other means. You
Mm-hmm.
had the ideas of what to do, and you realized you needed to start small. You were logical about it. You didn't think, wow, but yet you had vision of, so you're on your way and you have clients and success. And is there anything else you want to share it with us about what you do or about Madeline Hatch?
Whatever people are going through. I know I've been talking about how just like the modern times of people kind of forgetting that our minds and bodies still need an outlet too. So mostly speaking to like maybe if you like work a corporate job or work a 9 to 5 basically, and so you just really, especially in the Bay Area, there's a lot of commuting. There's a lot of people who commute 1 to 2 hours a day. You just forget to put yourself first. And so, yeah, just speaking to those people, it's so easy to just put yourself on the back burner because you have to work, you have to make ends meet, you have to do what you have to do, and just taking care of yourself kind of goes on the back burner. And so, yeah, I just really enjoy being the person that reminds people with what I do, transformation program or coaching and whatnot. It is a lot more accountability to yourself. I suppose it's just what's different with my transformation program and coaching is that it's how do we integrate and how do we mentally work through what's going on and still create the opportunity to integrate that, because we know that if we keep going at the path that we're on, we're going to be back into that COVID situation where most of us gained a bunch and didn't really get that far. And like, for instance, like my client who also spoke about what he went through, in that time, he was doing pretty well on his own fitness and nutrition journey. COVID hit and he just let it go and he just never came back to it. And I think a lot of people experience that where they just thought, oh, it's just 2 weeks without going to the gym. It's fine. But what we forgot was the mental side of it. Like if we just kind of let it kind of spiral downward and not really just catch it before it goes anywhere, and say, oh, we're divoting. Oh, let's come back. Oh, no, we're divoting. Let's come back. Yeah, you're just catching it before it goes anywhere. That makes a huge difference.
Taking care of your bodies when it's not sick.
Being more proactive.
And especially weight training as you get older prevents a lot of issues for older women through menopause, especially. So that's a great time to get a coach. Check out Madeline on her Instagram account. Well, thank you very much, Madeline, for joining us on Know It, Live It. I've loved talking to you. I believe in you. And good luck in everything that you do. And watch out, Crockett. She's coming for you. Thanks for joining us on Know It, Live It. Visit knowitliveit.net for the latest scoops and recaps and more. Remember to subscribe to this podcast, like, and leave comments so you'll never miss an episode with fascinating people who live what they know.